The phrase forgive, but not forget is severely underrated, maybe due to how short and easy it is to roll off the tongue without really grappling with its greater meaning. Viewer participation is really encouraged. Please leave a comment, a question, a rebuttal, anything below in any of the YouTube videos or the Instagram posts, and I'll be personally reviewing all of these and answering them all in one final video. The phrase forgive, but not forget is severely underrated, maybe due to how short and easy it is to roll off the tongue without really grappling with its greater meaning. How would you define forgive? Oxford Dictionary defines it as stop feeling angry or resentful towards someone for an offense, flaw, or mistake. If someone has transgressed against you, what do you really gain by being angry? Well, firstly, it's one of the most visceral emotions that can easily be detected, even when the bearer is doing their best to conceal it. It communicates dissatisfaction clearly to any observer, the magnitude of anger correlating with the level of perceived wrongdoing. It's important to note how I said it's a perception of wrongdoing. Most of our communication is done via body language and facial language. And lastly, with our tone being the next important thing. So, using our emotions, such as anger, can communicate far more information than our words can alone. It's also much harder to ignore people who are being angry, typically making others to take their concerns more seriously. We learn as children that it's actually the reason temper tantrums work. It's an effective tool to gain their attention and to manipulate others into acting in a desired way. Now, while I'm not going to go as far and equate the recent peaceful protests to temper tantrums, as there is a genuine cause for outrage, but it's important to see how they're both utilizing the same psychological strategies. The fact that they're taking advantage of the same systems should at least warrant scrutiny into the effectiveness of peaceful but angry protests. The majority of these protesters are people with their heart in the right place. I can't just shake off the feeling that it's not the most effective means of driving change. That is even without taking into account the violent protests that are fed off the anger and have taken things far too far and into the realm of crime and unrest. I think it's generally well accepted that even in situations where individuals are justified in getting angry, the resolution is typically better when handled in an absence of anger. Firstly, negative emotions are a canon and can really affect how we interpret and act in situations, and they can often work against us as well. Secondly, these emotions are not just affecting us, but the other people we're inflicting them on too. Generally, people are quicker to get defensive and be less willing to cooperate with an individual if they're showing negative and animosity towards them. So, if this is generally true for a one-on-one individual interaction, won't this still hold true for group interactions? Well, it gets a bit more complicated as we'll then have to factor in group dynamics and game theory, which is far past the scope of this series, though it is very unlikely that throwing more and more people into an unideal situation is ever going to lead to that situation getting anything but worse. So far, I've only briefly gone over some of the short-term effects of anger in a situation. Unfortunately, the long-term effects of holding on to anger are even worse. Anger is a poison that you drink yourself. And I can only think of a handful of benefits it even has when used intelligently. This is why forgiveness is so effective, as it's a means of letting go of the anger and a means to stop drinking the poison. However, it's not the same as forgetting to take action, and not the same as letting people go and not holding them responsible for their actions. To get to a resolution is still 100% in the cards, and if not more firmly settled on the table. With a healthier mindset and healthier outlook, we can look to find better resolutions to the problems that we are faced with. Not all peaceful protests are equal. And there's a profound and powerful difference between a protest where the individuals have found forgiveness and not. Focus. It's a powerful tool and concept to not be taken lightly. Remember how I said that anger communicates an increased amount of information, though this seems to come at a cost. It oftentimes dilutes the focus of a message, and at worst can completely obfuscate the message entirely. I purposely stay away from news cycles, social media, as these seem to be breeding grounds for negativity. However, I still sometimes catch a glimpse of messages that these recent protests have been portraying. Disappointingly, the vast majority of these messages have been angry rants that have very little substance in the form of actionable tasks to reach a resolution. I've even heard it get as bad as people demanding that until there are no unarmed civilian deaths, they will not rest, without ever mentioning or suggesting a single thing that would be able to make that a reality in a country that has a gun behind every blade of grass. Also, other counterproductive messages such as defund the police is an argument that comes from a very emotional standpoint. If anything, the US need to put more money into their police forces so they can get better hires, training, and research into non-lethal technologies. I can give an example of what an actionable message would be. One actionable improvement to how arrests are made could be to create a publicly available handbook of all the legal restraining methods police are authorized to use during an arrest. Police are trained on such methods, and if they deviate and use methods that have been banned, then they should immediately be suspended for malpractice. If said malpractice results in harm to a civilian, then they should be tried in the courts of law. So, putting your knee on someone's neck, that's a banned method of restraining someone. You see how I could make these suggestions without really having much anger in me, or anger against the police? As what exactly will my anger get that my rational demands won't? I honestly believe that it won't get me anything. At least not anything good. And throughout history, I think we've seen examples of what anger leads to. Anger leads to the dark side. But we wouldn't have heard about all of this if it weren't for the protests, right? So it does work, right? Protests work. Yes, that part is effective. The anger is an unneeded byproduct. Also, think for a second. What is the most memorable protest of all time? MLK and the Civil Rights Movement was a protest that officially resulted in very little to no violence, which would have never been possible if people were angry. Alright, let's get right into the news then. So, Apple wins landmark court battle with EU over 14.3 billion of tax payments. We all know that Apple are the god. They are the alpha and the omega, basically avoiding and dodging any bit of tax they can pay. Like, I got some money, I got lots of money, being the first $1 trillion company in the world, but fuck it, not gonna pay tax. I mean, a business entity, that's what businesses usually want to do, and yep, in this case, they managed to win 14 billion, I don't know. So I'm starting to think that this is actually all really connected. Apple, Biden, Obama, Musk, and others tweeted a Bitcoin scam. I think one of them was also, who was it? Bill Gates used to be the richest man in the world before Jeff Bezos took over everything. It's kind of funny because the scam that they were tweeting out was a Bitcoin scam. So their Twitter accounts got hacked, and apparently the Bitcoin earners made over 120,000, which I kind of find funny. And it just goes to show that people will follow what respected people say. The people are stupid, just so stupid. Like the amount of people that fall for scams each day, making scammers rich. And man, sometimes I think, fuck it, let's not even earn an honest living. Let's become a scammer, right? Yeah, or maybe I already did. Oh shit, no. Okay, so this one is a little bit different from my news article. A guy called Brett Weinstein, I have to say it right because he gets not annoyed, but rightfully so, like mispronouncing people's names sucks. Not to confuse him with Harvey Weinstein, he's a Weinstein, like Einstein. Remember, but this is a really cool guy, really intelligent guy. Check him out, and essentially in this little clip, a little 13-minute segment, he proposes how America can get over who should vote for greater of two evils, Biden versus Trump, that they can use essentially a duo system where they put two people forward, one from center right, one from center left, and they go run for president together. It's really interesting. I definitely recommend you to check out this video. I'll probably put a link in the description below. I'm probably going to do a whole segment on this in the future. Alright, we're going to go somewhere a little bit morbid. So now, woman, 27 killed by rare complication after drinking alcohol on empty stomach. So I don't usually go to stories like this because, people die, I don't care. And that's going to sound terrible. It's just that people are dying like every day. The reason why I'm highlighting this one is because even me myself, I've been in several situations where I drink alcohol on an empty stomach. I naturally eat once a day, and when I eat, it's in the evening, so I'm usually drinking on an empty stomach. So yeah, this is a rare complication. I'm not really sure if you, like your average person, should be worried about this, but just so you know that it can happen. And of course, it's a terrible thing to happen. And like the news article doesn't really say anything apart from its complication. She was young and she was also a cyclist, very fit, so it can happen to anyone, it seems. It's a little bit of a weird one I'm bringing to you now. But the title is West Ham stars plea in hunt for car tie slasher turns into cyclist registration debate. There was a guy on a bike going around slashing tires. The bike somewhat seems irrelevant for why you would have to register cycles, but it stems from a bigger topic, as in we have a really bad system for classifying vehicles or transportation. Like we have cars, we have mopeds, motorbikes, we have trucks, lorries, buses, but that's about it. In the day and age where we're going to get a lot smaller vehicles like electric bikes, electric scooters, like maybe one of those big electric cargo bikes. So when it comes to small vehicles, we've done a really bad job when it comes to classification and what we should really do with them. Like, are you a pedestrian or a vehicle? It's going to be really interesting. I'm going to make a whole segment on this as well. Fascinating. But in general, like the debate about whether we should be registered or have insurance is an interesting one. I feel like there's going to be some things that aren't going to work properly. Like for example, that's going to put more people off getting into cycling. And just think children, are you going to make them register and pay insurance too? Into the last story, it was like a bomb had hit an off license. Rise in wild camping hits beauty spots. So I wouldn't really call this a beauty spot, but it doesn't matter. Nature should be preserved. The whole point of camping is becoming one of nature. Using a Nintendo Switch is kind of cheating, a little bit compromise between us living an urban life and like actually getting in touch with our nature side. It's not as just like being dropped off in some random forest and having to fend for itself with nothing but your fists. But in general, fine, you can go out there, camp, take your shit, but then take it with you. Don't leave it there, and this is what these motherfuckers have done. And it is a big shame. Because someone's gonna have to clean that crap up. Like, I've been camping with people, been out to places where we're drinking stuff, and I believe that we were far more responsible than these people, but maybe these are just like underage kids drinking. If these are adults acting like this would really, really be bad. Okay, so what happened in my week? What the fuck, man?
Mike,
Every single
pick it up. Pick whatever you want to pick up. Pick whatever you want to pick up.
I'm very scared. I'm not scared, man. Pick it up, man.
Pick whatever. Pick whatever you want to pick up in your boot. Pick whatever you want to pick up. Pick whatever you want to pick up in your boot.
Pick it up, man.
Pick whatever you want to pick up in your
No,
boot.
I'm waiting.
Go in your car.
You
Mike,
see me wrong.
Mike. Go in
You
your
see
car.
me wrong. Pick it up, man. Bastard, man.
Go in your car. Go in your car. Kingsley. Kingsley.
I'm not scared.
Go in your car. Man, carry everyone come and take the boot. Pick whatever you want to pick up. Let me see. You ain't got shot in your boot, right? You ain't got shot in your boot. You open your boot. Pick whatever you want to pick up.
I'm waiting. Let me bring you your gun or anything.
Come inside your car. Fuck you, you're a fool. You are a dickhead. You are a dickhead. Why you buying your boot? Why you buying your boot? Why you buying your boot? They ask you fuck off. You fuck off. You fuck off. Why you buying your boot? You open your boot. You pick up your boot now. You open your boot. What are you going to take from there? Please go in your car.
Fucking idiot, man.
Kizo! Kizo! Go in your car.
Fucking idiot. I'm fed. I can feed you. I can feed you. Fucking idiot. I feed you, man. I feed you.
Kingsley!
Jesus Christ.
Kingsley!
Because you're jealous, man. Because you're jealous. Fucking dickhead. Dickhead. Fuck up, dickhead.
Kingsley! Sonny! Sonny!
You're jealous. This is fucking dickhead.